Story 1. I am naturally good at solving puzzles and figuring things out. Story 2. I am easily the sleepiest person in the room at all times. Story 3. Understanding people's feelings and seeing their perspectives as if they were my own. I guess I am a great listener, but I rarely like to talk about myself. Story 4. I can recognize any acquaintance in a public place, no matter how large the crowd is. If my eyes move around them even once, I can recognize them in a second, even if I have seen them only once or twice in the past. Another skill is problem solving in daily life. I am also very good at reading maps, understanding them, and retaining the information. Additionally, I am good at self-analysis and have a good sense of humor. Story 5. I am naturally good at finding hobbies, reaching an intermediate level, or investing hundreds of hours into either learning or practicing a hobby, and then completely losing interest and moving on to something else. Story 6. I am inherently skilled at processing and communicating information rapidly. Story 7. I'm an excellent visual learner, and I love art. I can pick up any artistic craft easily. Right now, I am into fiber arts, floor loom weaving, knitting, crochet, and hand sewing. I especially like to learn about the history of how things were made. I want to spin my own yarn, dye my own fabric with natural plant dyes, and make things from complete scratch. Story 8. My parents are both poor at English and literature, but somehow I am excellent at them. Story 9. Teaching. I have been able to help people with very poor grades improve quickly by changing the way they approach a topic. People learn in different ways, and there should be a right method for each individual. Story 10. I can predict the plot, ending, and most major details of about 90% of films that I am watching for the first time. It is always within like 15 minutes. I have had to learn to keep it to myself because I spoil movies for other people by accident since I am almost always right. It has been like this for most of my life, and I have no idea where it comes from. Story 11. Singing. I have a naturally good voice. I always feel a bit awkward when people praise me for it because all I have is the right shaped throat. I do practice and work on my performance of songs, but it does not feel the same as if I had learned guitar, piano, or something like that. Story 12. I am good at feeling tired all the time, just drained constantly. Story 13. Accounting and jumping. I can prepare some adjusting entries and have a 32-inch vertical. Story 14. Procrastinating. Also good at retaining information that will have no purpose for future reference. Story 15. People tend to open up to me and share their trauma or tell me their whole life story. I honestly just stand there. I guess I have a trustworthy face. Story 16. I can create artwork in almost any medium if I put in a little effort. It is very intuitive. Story 17. Tapping things in perfect rhythm. I always thought I should be a percussionist but have not had the time. Story 18. I literally cannot think of anything I do that is not a learned skill. Story 19. I am one of those people who cannot visualize or see any mental images at all. My whole world is formed through words. That is how I remember things and people I am not directly looking at. Somehow, this has created an amazing ability to form written storylines, and I am actually really grateful for that. Story 20. Flappy Bird, Crossy Road, Super Hexagon, those kinds of games are pretty useless, unfortunately. Story 21. Eating spicy food. I have been good at it since I was a little kid. I have only ever met one person as good as me. She was a 4'6", 100-year-old Indian woman. Story 22. Copying a drawing down to the tiniest detail. I cannot come up with original drawings or art, but I can recreate almost anything as long as I can see it. Story 23. Staring into space and really thinking of nothing at all. Story 24. Breaking down complex problems and presenting the issue's core in straightforward terms. Additionally, I can translate complex issues into clear explanations. Story 25. Hitting the snooze button on my alarm. In reality, something I am good at is skateboarding, and I have recently discovered that I am pretty good at disc golf. Story 26. Being above average in height. Since I was about 15, I have always been good at that. Story 27. I can remember about 90% of the dialogue from any movie I have seen after watching it once. Story 28. I'm not bad at setting up my place, so it has super cozy feng shui and is very comfortable. Story 29. I have a very sensitive sense of smell. I am really good at remembering lyrics. I know many songs by heart. I am also a good lateral thinker. Story 30. Estimating the time of day, usually within a few minutes. Story 31. Being tall is something I excel at. However, I have struggled with being short since I was about 8 years old. Story 32. Video games. Fighting. I do not condone violence. Drawing. Critical thinking. Humor. Story 33. Problem solving and figuring out how things work. I am autistic, so not people. Story 34. Using similes to sum up information and simplify concepts. I have been doing it since I was 2 years old. My first one was when my dad explained condensation to me, and I immediately compared it to the condensation that occurs on the outside of a glass of water. Story 35. Any video game I am very quickly good at, or anything that requires good coordination. Story 36. Doing things backwards. Somehow, I keep learning to do things in the freer way, like knitting. I am apparently a left-handed knitter, and it weirds everyone out. Story 37. Athleticism. I am pretty good at picking up any sport quite quickly. I of course am not a champion immediately, but I am good. Story 38. I have the talent of making clothes that look good on the coat hanger in the shops look terrible when I wear them. Story 39. I have a selectively very good long-term memory. I can recall vivid details and information from childhood. I remember birthdays of kids in my 4th grade class who probably don't even remember I exist. When I meet a person, I nearly always retain their name and details they share with me about their lives. I have learned to withhold this skill and pretend I know less than I do because it makes people uncomfortable. I went to the American Telephone and Telegraph Company store in 2006 to get a new phone before I went away to college. In 2012, I saw the woman who helped me on the train and remembered her and her name. She was not uncomfortable. She thought it was impressive and was very flattered. Story 40. Honestly, I would say performing and entertaining, making people feel seen, motivating people, and working at a place for a few weeks to a month to see what does not work and how to make it more efficient. Story 41. Reflexes. I do not know how or why, but mine are incredibly fast. I am talking about catching things I have dropped in midair or being able to catch things that were unexpectedly tossed to me. Story 42. Thinking without thinking. Ponder that one for a second. I am surprisingly good at it. Story 43. Ice skating. I got on the ice for the first time at 14 and was immediately able to skate, stop, and turn. It is like the only activity where this has happened. Story 44. Grammar and rhythm of language are major reasons why I became a language services specialist. Story 45. Directions. I can drive somewhere once or twice in a new area and have it ingrained in my memory. I am able to find my way back easily just by visualizing it in my mind. Story 46. Humility. I am so humble. I have humility like you have never seen before. Even my 3rd grade teacher thought so. She said to me, "Donnie, you are so humble." And I agreed. Story 47. Drinking extraordinary amounts of alcohol in a sitting, upwards of 40 standard drinks in 12 hours without dying or getting a hangover. Story 48. Honestly, I feel like drumming came pretty naturally to me. Story 49. Sports. For the most part, I can pick up any sport rather quickly. My body just understands how to move and what to do. Story 50. I'm really good at giving advice and speaking formally. I have excellent communication skills. Story 51. I was naturally gifted with strength. I lifted an entire sofa, the 3/4 sitter type, at age 16. Adrenaline was rushing, so I had about 100% strength. Now, here's the thing. My entire bloodline never went to the gym once in their life. Story 52. Pottery on the wheel. The only thing I was good at from the start. And crying. Story 53. I am very good at gathering information from people and remembering it. I can usually obtain a lot of deep personal information from someone within 15 minutes of meeting them for the first time. Story 54. I can reach into a sale rack and pull out the exact right item of clothing. Size, style, fabric, color, and price. This works for me and my husband. Cannot be taught. It is a gift from the shopping gods. Story 55. To simplify complex explanations into one sentence. Story 56. I can pick up beats very quickly. I don't have to practice drums or any such instruments. I can go and play as long as it is not double bass drums, of course. Story 57. Remembering names, numbers, birth dates, melodies, animal breeds, quotes, book and movie plots, and trauma. Reacting very quickly, which often includes not thinking things through. Story 58. Logical problem solving and forgetting basic information about people. Story 59. Finding patterns is brilliant for my job as an academic but awful for my anxiety disorder. Story 60. Writing. I do not read that much, yet I am still really good at writing books and other materials. Story 61. Good memory. I can remember names, facts, or dates easily, which seems to be impossible for others around me. Story 62. Dancing. I started taking classes when I was 9, and my only regret is that I did not start sooner. Movement comes naturally to me, in the same way that words come to a writer. Story 63. Music. I am by no means a virtuoso, but I just understand music. I started playing bass at 8 years old. I have a great sense of rhythm. I grasp music theory very easily. I know how to listen and play by ear, and I know how to play with other people. I am a lead guitarist, but I pride myself on not being one of those lead guitarists who think the show is about them. I do not play too loudly unless it is warranted, and I give people their space to be creative without overplaying. I do not mean to brag, but I am 30 years old, have been practicing guitar intensely for about 12 years now, and many people who are twice my age and very good musicians say that I play like I have been doing it for much longer than my actual time practiced. Story 64. Sales. Yes, back in the day, always number one. Annoying that my talent was not singing. Another Elvis? Story 65. Remembering people's birthdays, even those I have not seen in 20 years. Story 66. I am very good at mathematics, information technology, and similar subjects. I am also skilled at explaining concepts clearly. Story 67. Rollerblading and skating. For some reason, when I was a little kid, I excelled at both the moment I put them on my feet. I am not sure why, but they just felt natural to me. Story 68. I can fall asleep in less than 5 minutes. I think I inherited this skill from my dad. Story 69. Packing. I can make the most efficient use of any given space. Moving truck, suitcase, box, anything where you have to put a lot of items into a contained space for transporting. I have even had the ticket checker at Costco comment on how efficient my cart looked. It is my superpower. Story 70. I feel like I have always been pretty good at relaxing. Not being lazy exactly, but knowing how to relax just right and really make the most of it. Story 71. Remembering birthdays. A classmate mentioned his birthday once offhandedly to someone who was not even me. 1 year later, he said, "Oh, no one knows my birthday." I said, "I do. It is August 19th. He asked me how I knew, and I had to awkwardly explain that he had mentioned it randomly a year ago. It is still funny to me. Story 72. I can bake very well. I also think I am pretty good at riding that duck. Story 73. Figuring things out, finding solutions, convincing people, lying, which I am so good at that I avoid doing because it does not feel morally right. Story 74. Let me see. Procrastinating, disappointing or upsetting people, speaking in different accents, and impersonations. Story 75. Staying awake. I say that, but it is more like I cannot sleep without very specific circumstances. Story 76. Singing Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer and using my sledgehammer to hammer some stuff. Story 77. I am surprisingly good at surviving. It almost seems impossible for me to die. I am also pretty good at acting sober, or at least pretending I am not on anything and just feeling off. Story 78. I am really good at remembering specific dates of events that happened even years ago. For example, I will remember a specific bad storm that hit on July 17, 2010. Story 79. Schmoozing. I've always been able to talk with business people and investors. As a chef, it's part of my job to greet and make the very important persons feel valued. Story 80. Offending people. I am sarcastic and tend to assume everyone knows this, even people I have never spoken to before online, which I am aware is very foolish. Story 81. I am naturally good at not knowing things I am naturally good at. It doesn't make any sense, right? Story 82. Making things up. Background stories and other fantasy content. So pretty useless. Also, I am not skilled at writing. Story 83. Diagnostics, cars, machinery, and so on. Later in life, it only became a burden. I don't have any actual friends, only users. It's sad, but over time it has led to personal freedom. With time, there comes a realization that we truly travel our own path. Story 84. Storytelling. My formative years involved being part of a tourist crowd because my father was taking care of many people. Adding a couple of his own children to the mix doubled the responsibilities he needed to manage. This, combined with my passion for reading and my earliest treasures being books, led to my strong interest in stories. Story 85. Getting random strangers to love me. I have multiple restraining orders against me. Story 86. Picking the most expensive items. When remodeling our kitchen and looking at cabinets, countertops, handles, and everything else, I would always say, I like this one. Without fail, it would always be the most expensive item in the store. Story 87. Surprising myself and others by consistently discovering new and exciting ways to make mistakes. Story 88. I am naturally good at thinking and sometimes overthinking. This gives me a broad perspective on everything. At the same time, it can make me nervous in certain situations, but that is okay. Story 89. Any type of racket game where you are meant to hit a moving object. Story 90. I am naturally good at cooking. I can walk into anyone's kitchen and make dinner with the ingredients already in their pantry. Story 91. I have always been good at drawing, and for some reason I memorize things quite easily as well. Story 92. I memorize mainly when it is something I like. I also happen to learn games very quickly. Story 93. I am a conversational powerhouse. Give me an engaging topic and I will talk for hours. Story 94. Nothing, because I usually have too many tasks to handle. Jack of all trades, master of none. Story 95. Finding a word someone is struggling to remember, completing their phrase for them, and similar situations. Or recalling the names of games or shows my siblings try to remember from our childhood. Being a good listener. Noticing when someone says they are okay when they actually are not. Finding the right words to help when needed. Story 96. To overthink in a positive way means being slightly pessimistic and always considering the worst possible outcome. I appreciate it because I am prepared for the worst and feel glad when things work out well. Story 97. Quizzes. Half the time I do not know why I know the answers. I think maybe I am just a really good guesser, but I am a genuine annoyance in a pub quiz. Story 98. Catching flies with my hands. From a tabletop snatch to a midair takedown, I have a knack for timing the fly grab. Story 99. I know exactly what someone is thinking based on what they are saying. Story 100. Directions. I can go to a place once and know how to get back there. Story 101. I am good at finding pieces of media that permanently shape a part of my brain and have influenced who I am. Examples include Fallout 4, Detroit, Become Human, Dead by Daylight, Dying Light, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, Deep Rock Galactic, Murder Drones, Hell of a Boss, Has-Been Hotel, Halo, Hamilton, God of War, Grand Theft Auto 5, The Owl House, The Adventures of Tintin, The Secret of the Unicorn, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Air Mech Arena, Castle Crashers, Battle Block Theater, and many more. Story 102. Driving. I am always the first one somewhere. No accidents. Story 103. Building mechanical equipment is not excellent but above average. Story 104. Artistic skills come naturally to me. I never had to be taught how to crochet or knit. I just knew how to do it. Story 105. I had a quite traumatic childhood. And now whenever there is a crisis or an emergency in my life, I have the ability to remain calm and not stress about it. Panicking and worrying solve nothing. Story 106. Remembering tunes and songs, like when I hear something and think, oh my God, wait, I have heard this before, and then try to recall the name of the song. One time I heard a classical song and thought, oh my God, it's the original song for Beethoven Virus. But when I tried showing the similarities to other people, they didn't notice, even though it is just a remix. Story 107. Calculating in my head. I often add up the groceries I buy mentally and am generally accurate within $1 or $2 at checkout. Story 108. I have always excelled at mathematics even as a child and eventually grew up to be an engineer. I have never been much of a writer, though. Story 109. I am a fan of the growth mindset, but not so much about the book that popularized it, as it does not allow for neurodiversity. Therefore, I am not a fan of saying anyone is a natural at anything, the best at any sport or activity practice constantly. However, I rarely fire a gun. I have picked up air rifles and .22 caliber firearms and performed exceptionally with both. My hand-eye coordination is poor. My ball-eye coordination is terrible. I cannot throw a stone accurately, but I pick up a gun or a bow and arrow and hit the bullseye consistently. X's, no. Darts, no. Computer games? Only if they involve a gun controller. It is a starting point. I am not quick, and at longer distances or with higher calibers, I will need more practice. Still, combined with a brain that perceives the world differently, making many problems seem straightforward, that is what I have. Story 110. Verbally cutting my opponent in an argument to shreds, putting them in their place by using correct facts and linguistic expertise, although in my head, 2 hours after walking away defeated. Story 111. Learning languages, however, I have given up on Vietnamese and Malay. Even if I can learn the words, my accent prevents me from pronouncing them correctly, but I am proficient in 7 languages. Story 112. Drums, alcoholism, and self-destruction. The classic drummer stereotype. Story 113. Maybe programming, but not really sure. Well, I am terrible at mathematics and physics, so yes. Story 114. Guessing people's genuine intent and feelings makes people uncomfortable around me, because whatever their character act does not work well on me. That talent is essentially a curse because I have a hard time being comfortable around people myself. It has been a lonely life. Story 115. Making new friends. I have yet to meet a person who feels more comfortable in awkward silence. Story 116. Apparently, I am really good at communication. I just know how to get my point across. I do not think it is anything special. Story 117. Holding a conversation and showing genuine interest in another person. I guess I am right where I should be in sales. Story 118. I am very good at being myself. I feel great when I am true to who I am. It makes me feel terribly bad if something happens in my life that forces me to pretend. Story 119. I am good at learning new things and doing them well, but I am not able to perfect any of those things. Story 120. With my hands, I can locate the area of pain on someone's body. Story 121. Multitasking, I can actively cook dinner, follow a television show without a problem, play a game on my phone with my other hand, and have a conversation at the same time. Story 122. I am good with children without much effort. Children seem to gravitate towards me and want to chat with me. I am also skilled at fixing things and understanding how machinery works. Story 123. I can order tequila at bars quite well. I also talk nonsense afterward. Story 124. I am just inexplicably good at getting people to open up to me while applying no pressure at all. Half the time, I do not even ask. Story 125. Astrology. I am an astrologer and an astrological researcher who has helped many people figure out when they are stuck. Comes naturally to me. Story 126. finding practical solutions to problems. I collect information and organize it efficiently. I care about people's mental health, whether emotional or logical. I am communicative, constructive, and informative on any subject. I make many mistakes and enjoy being proven wrong. It helps me improve and feel natural in what I do. Before you wonder if I am a therapist, as many people have asked, I create 3D animations both as a hobby and professionally. Story 127. Learning. I can understand concepts quickly and master the basics very fast. I just do not have the motivation to practice the same material repeatedly, so I never really reach advanced or master level. Story 128. I can memorize a lot of information, and I don't take too long with it either. It has really helped me with school. Story 129. I have a unique skill in efficiently using space. Packing a moving truck, packing boxes, fitting items through doors, and utilizing the spaces in rooms. Feels like playing a game of Tetris in my mind. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.